6.
Hello and welcome to our virtual Ripon City Council Forum. I'm Kelly Donahue. I'm the President CEO of the Ripon Chamber of Commerce. I would like to thank all 5 of our candidates for being here tonight. We were not able to have a live audience, but I want to thank everyone who is viewing virtually. I want to remind you all that if you have a question throughout the evening that you feel was not answered, please submit this question through Facebook on the Ripon Chamber of Commerce Facebook page or myripon.com Facebook page through the comments in our video. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our moderator. He is the chairman of our Ripon Chamber Government Relations Committee, Mr. Mike Rastusha.
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that. And thank you to GRC for hosting this tonight. Welcome, candidates. Before I introduce you, I just want to let you know that the way we kind of look at this, the way the community's looked at it, is more of a job interview and a discussion, and really more importantly that the community gets to get educated on your thoughts about certain issues. So first I'd like to introduce Tim Wheeler, Tamra Spade, Daniel Degraff, Leo Zuber, and Richard Kohl. Thank you all for being here tonight. So I'm going to go over, you've all been given the kind of the guidelines, but I want to read the guidelines so the public understands what we're doing. We had a committee of 5 residents from Ripon and businesses, and we wanted to make sure that the questions that were asked, these are all questions we received from the community, that they weren't personal attacks, they were relevant to what city councils do, not relative to what some other office does. So we're going to start out with each candidate will make a 2-minute opening remark, and the order was determined by drawing before the night, and the order goes from right to left. Please also, when you answer the questions, if you could be specific rather than say, we're going to get together and chat, be specific, A, B, C, so that the community understands what you're going to do about a certain area that they've asked about. Because really what we were asked about is more of, I want to know specifics, how are you going to address certain issues. That's the opening statement. Then we're going to go to each of you will have 2 questions directly to you, and you'll have 90 seconds to answer the question. So each of you will get 2. I'll start out with Tim, and then I'll go to Tamra, Dan, Leo, and Richard, and then come back and go through again. So each of you get 1 question, and we'll go back. There are 20 general questions that all of you will answer, and we will rotate who starts. The first will get 90 seconds to respond. Everyone else will get 30 seconds if you would like to respond. Your answer may be yes or no, or you may want to add something to it, but you're not required to. After all the questions have been asked, we'll open it up for questions from the audience. Actually, questions are probably coming in throughout this entire period, and then after we get to the last 20, we'll go ahead and go to those questions that are relevant. And then you'll all have a 2-minute closing statement. I'll probably ask about an hour in if somebody nudges me to let me know we're an hour in to see if we need a break just to kind of recoup and use the restrooms and get a drink of water. So with that, why don't we go ahead with opening statements. So Tim, if you want to start with your opening statement, and then we'll time it, and then we'll move on down.
Sure. So, good evening. I am Tim Wheeler. I am a CPA and have been doing taxes for 17 years and now own office downtown here in Ripon.
I'll just have a second.
Sure.
How many mics do we have on at one time? Because his is green. So everybody turn yours on, please, so Tim will work. There you go.
Oh, now I'm on. All right, there I can hear myself.
So you want to start
Okay.
over? Sorry, I saw it green, so.
It's all right. Good evening, I'm Tim Wheeler. I'm a CPA and I've been doing taxes for 17 years and I have an office in downtown Ripon. I'm a husband, a father of 3 young children named Declan, Addie, and Elsie. I told him I'd say hi to them tonight. And a proud Ripon resident for 15 years. I've been getting asked why I ran for city councilor this year, and my answer has kept evolving as I've been talking to residents and business owners throughout the community. It boils down to this. Ripon is a special place. I think if you live here, you know that. And the safety and security of this town is unparalleled to any other city that I know of, and we aren't plagued with a lot of the issues that local towns and cities are. And I want to be a part of the decision-making process going forward to keep it that way. I employ roughly 12 people right now, and I'm building a building downtown with a couple partners to bring more small business downtown. And I know firsthand how important small business is to a small town like this. I strive to help small businesses in my business now, and I'm really excited about the opportunity to do that at the city level. I also believe that as a Christian, I'm guided by my faith and my decision-making every day, and I don't think that'll change. I believe that actually empowers me to be more objective in a lot of situations and kind of set both sides of issues aside and really focus on the issue to make the best decision for the city and for my business and for my family and all those decisions. And that's what I do on a daily basis for individuals and businesses all over the place. So I thank you for your consideration and look forward to tonight.
Thanks, Dan, appreciate it. Tamra, please make sure, there you go, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tamra Spade. First, I'd like to thank myripon.com and the Ripon Chamber for hosting the candidate forum. I would also like to thank the City of Ripon for allowing us to use the City Council chambers. There are a few reasons why I'm running for the Ripon City Council. And first, I've lived in Ripon almost 8 years. My daughter attended Ripon Elementary and is currently a senior over at Ripon High School. I think it is so important to be involved in your community and give back. I currently serve on the Ripon Consolidated Fire Board, Sober Grad, and the Ripon Community Fund. Second, I believe that with my professional experience in education, I'd bring a fresh perspective to the council if elected. I am fortunate to have been able to work with the current and previous City Council and City staff through different projects during my tenure at the Ripon Chamber of Commerce. Working at the Chamber has given me insight in how the system works. Education is also very important to me. Our children and are our next business leaders. While I was at the Ripon Chamber, I started the Youth Leadership Academy, introducing students to different industries. This is something that I would like to see further growth, introducing vocational training, internships, and more collaboration with business leaders. If elected, I'd like to assure our police force has proper funding for equipment and staffing. Emergency services is close to my heart. I have spent 2 terms, like I said, on the Ripon Consolidated Fire Board, and my son is a motor officer in Turlock. It is more important now than ever before to make sure our officers are fully staffed and are safe. I am also pro-business. We need to maintain 2.5–3%. I think that's what they're doing currently for controlled growth. But we need industry, such as tech and manufacturing. We also need entrepreneurs opening specialized family businesses, maximizing our sales tax and offering services to our residents so they don't have to shop outside. Shopping local is also so important. These are just some of my passions and why I feel that I am the best candidate. Together, we can build strength. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamra. Turn your mic off, please, and then Dan. Thank you.
Well, good evening, and thank you to the Chamber and GRC and myripon.com for hosting us this evening. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be able to serve the City of Ripon on the City Council for the last 4 years, and I just look forward to tonight to hear what we all have to offer. So thank you to everybody here tonight for being here. And my name is Daniel Degraff. I'm a husband, a father of 2, and a Christian. I currently employed and work as a registered civil engineer where I work on agriculture and municipal projects to deliver quality engineering to my clients. I'm passionate about using that experience to guide the city and help us make decisions. It's been a great experience in the last 4 years, and I'm looking forward to being able to have the opportunity to do that again. I've prioritized this election public safety, economic development, and trying to provide water, drinking water, and getting our reliance on groundwater back to getting off of our reliance on groundwater for drinking water, and continue to serve on the Advisory Water Commission, which I serve on, and I'm also serve on the South San Joaquin Groundwater Sustainability Agency, where we work hard to provide better water and sustainability in our water, groundwater here in the Central Valley. Looking forward to the discussion tonight. I appreciate everybody's time here, and I'm happy to discuss our vision for the future for the Ripon. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Leo?
I too would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce and my Ripon for organizing and holding this event. This whole COVID situation has made it extremely difficult for people to get together in groups or activities or events in order to talk about candidates or any other issue. And tonight is a very good way to at least partially overcome that. I think, to me, the important thing about tonight is that it will give you, the voters, a chance to see us in action. Questions will be proposed, answers will be given, opportunities given to respond to those sorts of things, and I think that will be informative to the voters. Ripon is a great place. I don't think you can go anywhere in this town, ask anybody, and not get that for an answer. The other answer you're going to get is, we want to keep it that way. And tonight, we'll give you a chance to look at 5 people who all want to do that. And it will give you the opportunity to see who we are, what our ideas are, what we stand for, and allow you to begin to make decisions about whether or not we are somebody that you would like to see on this council. As I said, this is a tremendous community. I'm committed to keeping it that way, try to look for creative ideas to get the most out of what we have. And finally, I'm really looking forward to the next 2 hours.
Thank you, Leo. Richard Kohl. Please lean in. There you go.
There you go. Good evening. Thank you to the Ripon Chamber of Commerce and the City of Ripon for this opportunity. I've always wanted to be involved in politics and on a political level, as well as in city government. It's something that I've followed and been interested in for many, many years. I know I'm the candidate that has lived in Ripon for the shortest amount of time. However, I've been coming to Ripon for many, many years. I have very close friends who live here in Ripon their entire lives. I've always been impressed with the small town community feel of Ripon and the safe environment Ripon has. I started coming to Ripon much more frequently when I began dating my now wife. And when we got married, it was the easy decision that my kids and I would move to Ripon. We are so fortunate to be ingrained in this community. It feels like we have lived here much longer since everybody knows everybody in this town. Ripon is truly the best community I've had the opportunity to live in. We are a community of values, where we know each other's names and help one another. I am grateful for the opportunity to volunteer with my family at Bethany Home and attend church in such a wonderful community. I'm fortunate to be the brother-in-law to a Ripon Fire Battalion chief, the son-in-law to a former Ripon police lieutenant, and the nephew to a former City of Ripon mayor and longtime city councilman, and the relative to many, many small business owners in this community. I feel I bring an outsider's perspective, as well as the collective knowledge and history of this town that I have gained from my extended family. If I'm elected, I would focus on the following: fire and police for the health and safety of our community, supporting small businesses in Ripon, especially at this time in our community due to COVID, organic growth that maintains our quality of life and small town feel, and looking for innovative solutions to our traffic issues. I'm very impressed by the group of citizens we have up here tonight. Every one of these individuals is willing to volunteer their time to this community and run for city council. Each one has unique qualities and to offer this great place we live in.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate it. So we're going to get started, but I don't think I mentioned this before. So the questions that we have, I did mention it to the candidates earlier, The questions that are going to be asked tonight did come from the public. Came through my Ripon, or they went to the chamber, or somebody texted the questions. So these are all from the community. And if we had 4 or 5 for a particular candidate that said, I want to ask this candidate this question, that's how we developed the question for that particular person. We didn't develop it. We put them together in that category. And then the general questions were also obtained via my Ripon and chamber, and those weren't specific to anybody. They're just questions that people wanted to ask. And so I already went over the rules. So we'll go ahead and start out with Tim. And this is everybody gets 2 questions, but there may be a part A and a part B. So how do you prioritize? I'm going to read both, and then how are you going to prioritize your full-time job and your commitment to your city council position? And then B was, or you can add on to it, do you have time needed to be an effective city council person?
Sure. That's a fair question. My CPA role is unique in the fact that I do have a condensed tax season. So we do a lot of work in like a 2.5-month period from mid-January to April 15th, so maybe 3 months total there. And that time will be difficult for me to spend extra time, but I have already in my calendar looked at places where we could set aside time for, an hour block a couple times a week to either meet with constituents or people in the city or have meetings. We already have time blocked off that I can block off for Tuesday night council meetings. I don't believe that will be an issue, as I can make my own schedule. I own the business, and so I feel like I could compartmentalize those duties pretty well, as I am a pretty high-capacity person. I do a lot in the community. I'm involved in a lot of boards and decision-making things, and so I feel like this will be something that I can manage well. During the off-season, now kind of this time frame, I have almost unlimited time that I can take and spend for whatever duties are called for me. Does that answer the question, both questions? Both sides?
Yes, I
Yeah.
did, yeah.
Okay.
Good. Thanks, Tim. Okay, this next one will go to Tamra, and this only has a part A. If elected and faced with the question of persuading a new business to come to Ripon or Tracy, which do you choose, and how do you make the decision to prioritize your elected position over your job as the president and CEO of the Tracy Chamber of Commerce?
Well, for starters, again, this is my home, and my priority, my job in Tracy is a job. It depends on what type of business it is, and to be honest, here, we need to be specific about what we bring in to Ripon, and we need services and products that we don't have. Tracy is 100,000 people. The demographics, everything is going to be different here than it would be in Tracy. So you can't even really compare what type of businesses would want to come in to Ripon versus Tracy. So, it depends. If I wouldn't be doing the recruiting anyway. We would work with staff at the city and whoever's attending, but I think we want in Ripon what is going to be best for our community and kind of go from there, so, yeah.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay, Daniel, this happens to be a 2-part question. You have already served 1 term as a councilman. Is there something in particular you hope to accomplish during your 2nd term on city council that you were not able to accomplish in your 1st term? And why is serving on the council important enough for you to run again?
That's a great question, and like I said in my opening statement, it was a great honor to be elected 4 years ago, and I set out with goals to improve the economic development, and early on, within the first few months of being elected, we were able to implement the economic incentive program, which within a few months was utilized to bring boat country to town. We've seen that program be successful other places as well, and that's one of the priorities I'd have. I think I have some good ideas about how to improve that program and to utilize it to continue to bring businesses to town. I think also with my experience as an engineer, I bring unique qualities to the council with the current makeup, and I think I would also continue to bring that experience that would be useful in the engineering world with one of my top priorities, which is trying to provide an additional source of drinking water for the city to reduce our reliance on groundwater. I have a lot of experience in that world. I currently serve on the Advisory Water Commission and the South San Joaquin Groundwater Sustainability Agency as the vice chair of that committee in partnership with South San Joaquin Irrigation District and the City of Escalon. And I would like to continue to work on that as one of my top priorities, to try and find funding and develop what is currently probably around $18 to $20 million project to bring drinking water from SSJID to the city. So those are some of my top priorities. Obviously, keeping Ripon the great little city that it is, and providing support for our first responders and police is an important thing to me, and just continuing to keep the city of Ripon the great little city that it is. So, thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Leo, you have served 8 years on the city council. As an incumbent council person, is there a decision you would have made differently in hindsight? That's the first part of and then I'll read the second part of that. Are there any projects you feel like the city should have already accomplished during your tenure as a councilman, but haven't yet?
Relative to decisions that were made, I think my initial response is I didn't make any individual decisions. Those decisions are made by 5 people who represent this community. I can say that I worked very hard with those people to be sure that all of the aspects of the issue were discussed, all of the facts that we could find were found, and then it was a decision by the council that, as to what we were going to do. I'd also like to point out that in the last 8 years, this council has been very good about supporting the decisions that it's made. We don't always agree with each other. We don't always agree that the decision that is made is what we really would like it to be. But once that decision is made, it's a council decision, and we move forward. I don't remember what the second question was.
Listen, okay, no, that's fine. Let me read it. Are there any projects you feel like the city should have already accomplished during your tenure as a council person, but haven't yet? Things that maybe the city was working on, but just haven't had time to get them completed?
I think my answer would change that just a little bit.
Okay.
There are things that I wish the city had been able to accomplish, and I have no trouble saying that it wasn't the city's fault that it was done. We rely a tremendous amount on funding from other sources, the state, federal government, grants, that sort of thing. And if there's one thing I've learned in the last 8 years, the requirements that those people can come up with sometimes for us to spend their money are unbelievable. I think a prime example is Stockton Avenue. We started working on that 4 years ago. We had half of the money 3.5 years ago. We had all of the money 2 years ago. We knew what we wanted to do 4 years ago. Until about 2 weeks ago, Caltrans, which controls some of the money, hadn't made up its mind about this, and so it still hasn't been done.
Okay, thank you. Richard, sorry, when it gets to the red, I just kind of point. I don't want to be rude and interrupt.
Appreciate it.
But I just respect that everybody else's time. So Richard, this is the question for you. You recently moved to town, whatever recent means.
Yes, sir.
From the people that sent this in. How can the community be convinced you won't move out of the area if another job opportunity arises someplace else?
One word, my wife. I don't think that would ever happen. My wife is a lifelong Riponite. I would never think about leaving this community. I mean, I've had the opportunity to live in multiple cities, South Carolina, Ceres, Modesto. Just those 3, when I compare it to Ripon, Ripon is, I think I've heard the term jewel of the valley used many, many times. This community is very, very special. I would never move my family out of this community. My wife's family's here. That is my family now. And that thought it would never even cross my mind. No amount of money can buy happiness. I mean, you have to put your priorities, and my family and their happiness is much more important to me than financial gain or another opportunity.
Good, thank you. So now we're back to Tim again. Again, you get a two-part question. I don't know why they two parts, but you have a business downtown or in the process of developing a new building on the corner of Stockton Avenue and Second. Here's the two-part question. A, and then I'll repeat B, and then if you cover it, that's fine. Do you see a conflict being on the council, making decisions when they may help you personally? How would you handle issues that are or appear to have a conflict?
Yeah. My understanding is that the planning commission really makes the decisions on the buildings and what can come. And if there was ever a conflict, goodness, I mean, you recuse your vote or step out of the room. That's what the planning commission does. There's oftentimes when there's a conflict of interest, somebody knows somebody else or goes to church with that person or whatever it may be, and they just recuse their vote. I don't see that being an issue. The project was already approved before I even started running, so I don't see that an issue. And if it ever did become an issue, I think that'd be easy to step aside and listen to somebody else or and not have that be an issue. I did want to say something else, thinking about my last answer in regards to the question of having a business, being a businessman, and also potentially being on the city council. I have an amazing staff and an amazing wife and family that we wrestle with that quite a bit. And before I made the decision to run, we talked through that a lot of how that would look and how that would work. And everyone was so encouraging and on board. And so I want to reiterate that. I know I look forward to that opportunity to make it work and to give it all that I can. Thanks.
Good, thanks, Tim. Tamra, during your tenure as president and CEO of the Ripon Chamber of Commerce, the organization was very event-focused rather than concentrating on business services. What do you feel the role, and then so this transitions into the question, what do you feel the role of the city is in putting on community-wide events? For an example, would you use taxpayer dollars to put on a 4th of July show?
So I got asked that question quite a bit when I was out there walking from different people. People miss the events. They miss 4th of July. And I personally feel that the city should contribute and help with the 4th of July. They used to. And then it just stopped. I think that's when the chamber took it over. So, or maybe Jeremiah took it over. I'm not sure when it happened, but I can tell you that other places, cities do contribute when it does come to events. And I know that this city does play a big role in Almond Blossom. And, but I think it's important for us to have community events. So, did I answer that?
Well, the answer would be yes, you would contribute taxpayer dollars for the 4th of July event, because that was the question.
And other cities do it, and I think that
Okay,
Ripon should do it.
No, that
Yeah.
answers the question. Good, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it does, whoever asked the question. If you're getting a lot of questions like that outside, then it
Yeah.
probably came from the same people. Daniel, what are your thoughts on outdoor operations in the downtown district? Why was it necessary to pass the temporary ordinance to allow businesses to operate outside when there's already an outdoor operating ordinance that's never been used? Do you see so that's kind of the first. Do you see the outdoor operations as a permanent situation or temporary?
It's a big question. A lot of words there. Great question, though. So early on in my first term, we had multiple discussions back and forth, lots of good discussion about an ordinance to allow outdoor dining and outdoor alcohol consumption. At the time, we brought up lots of different issues, and some of the concerns of mine were safety, making sure that if it was implemented, everybody could actually do this and enjoy it and not be struck by a car or in the street somewhere. Fairness to other businesses, neighboring businesses who might rely on that extra parking if parking stalls were blocked off. And just the cost, and I wasn't sure that businesses would be willing to invest in the infrastructure under the current, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, under the current situation. And in the past 4 years, not one business, to my knowledge, has applied for that permit. Now, under COVID-19, businesses were restricted to only being able to operate outside, so the city passed an emergency ordinance to allow outdoor dining and outdoor seating separate from the original permit, which really none of the business would be able to apply and do the things that they're doing right now under the original permit. So certainly in favor of looking at it and making it happen, and glad that we did it under the current rules.
Good. Thanks, Dan. Leo, you introduced and advocated for the city grant program to help businesses during the COVID pandemic by granting them $3,000 if they met certain requirements. Do you feel this was a successful program?
Overall, yes, I do. We had I think we identified 102 businesses that would qualify under the criteria that we had. 78 of those businesses did apply, and all 78 received the money. I have had comments from several people that own businesses in town that were very grateful for what we did, and several who have said that money kept them going until things loosened up a little bit and they could do more on their own. So yes, I think that's an instance where a problem exists. Through the chamber, we were apprised by the businesses of what those problems were and what kind of financial difficulties they were in. And as a council, we were able to look at our resources and processes used in other cities and come up with a program that, all intents and purposes that I know of, was highly successful.
Okay. Richard, what steps have you taken to educate yourself on current city priorities such as general plan, budget, road repair, public safety, etc.? Do you plan to implement plans you have seen implemented in other places you have lived?
That's a great question. So I've made sure that I've met with city council people. I've met with the chief of police. I've met with the fire chief to talk about their issues with public safety. I've met with Kevin, the city administrator, to talk about the growth plan in our community. Implementing outside plans from other areas, it's always good to gain knowledge from what other cities do. But what happens in Los Angeles, I think actually someone said this to me, what happens in Los Angeles is not necessarily going to be good for Ripon. What happens in San Francisco is not going to be good for Ripon. But I do think we can glean things off of other cities and what they've done in regards to growth, public safety, and apply them minimally to our city. So I am always educating, I'm always reading. So any information is good information, it's just how you use it.
Thank you. Sorry, I got unplugged here, so I had to plug that back in. I apologize for that if you heard all that rustling around. Okay, I had got a request that I speak louder into the mic, so you may have been in to hear me, but the people couldn't hear me that were listening. Okay, so now these are general questions. Again, the first person gets 90 seconds, and then 30 seconds, and we'll start. The first question will be Tim, and we'll go down the line, and the second question, so on and so forth. So Tim, this goes to you first. What volunteer work and community service projects have you been involved with to enhance the quality of life in Ripon prior to this election period? What are your ties to the community? Some of you covered your ties during the general comment, but.
Sure, yeah, I have many ties to the community, my family, my business, other things, friends. But, I was pretty helpful with Garden Joy. It's part of one of my community services projects. My family goes down there once a week to help harvest they love the opportunity. That's a beautiful place that the board there, Garden Joy, has done for people families to go and experience kind of the farm life. That's a great thing. I've been on a board of a local church. I've been involved with my kids' school activities and such. Most recently, though, Love Ripon asked me to be part of their Bless Our City campaign. If you know of a local herding business, there's that grant program going on as we speak, just like what Leo instituted with the city. Love Ripon has gathered so far. I think we've come up with 80 grand, and there's more coming in. And we're going to be giving money. Love Ripon is to do herding businesses. And I'm involved in some of the decision-making processes with that, and that's going to be a great program for businesses to get a little extra assistance in this time of need. And so I just encourage you, actually, now that I have the opportunity, if you know a local business that needs some extra money, have them go to loveripon.com. Loveripon.com, fill out the grant paperwork. That's a great thing that I'm super proud of being involved in, as it's going to help many businesses locally.
Good. Thanks, Tim. Tamra, would you like me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay.
I have been involved with the Ripon Consolidated Fire Department. Like I said, I've spent 2 terms on that. I was on the board at Spring Creek Golf and Country Club. I also was on the board last year for Sober Grad and continuing this year as treasurer. And then I served on Doctors Hospital of Manteca. My term is up at the end of this year. And then also I'm on the Ripon Community Fund. And I did donate to Love Ripon, so there's quite a bit. My daughter, being a senior in high school, we're really involved in sports. She plays water polo, and yeah, quite a bit.
Okay, good, thanks. Dan, do you want me to repeat that? Sure. Okay. What volunteer work and community service project have you been involved with to enhance the quality of life in Ripon prior to this election period?
That's a great question. Yeah, so being a father of 2 little ones under 3 years old, a lot of my time is dedicated to my family at this point, also to the city council and my full-time job as an engineer. I serve on 3 different committees that have monthly meetings that I represent for the city. I dedicate some time from my work being able to volunteer time in engineering services to different projects that I've been involved in. Like Tim, also been asked to serve on the Love Ripon committee. So try and dedicate a lot of my time, and yeah, I'm happy to do that. So thank you.
Good, thank you. Leo, you want me to read the?
Nope, I'm good.
Can everybody hear Leo?
I think I would cite as some of my community activities, I've served on the board for the Ripon Arts League for 25 years, been on the chamber board for longer than that, was also on the board at Spring Creek. But I think the one thing that I put most into is the recycling program. I've been working on that for 35 years, and it's something that if a lot of stuff got given up, that would not be one of them.
I knew you were going to say that one. Okay, Richard, would you like me to repeat the question? Or you okay?
No, sir. Thank you. Prior to COVID, my family and my children and I volunteered with Bethany Home. But then after that, right now, we've done a river cleanup, and those are the 2 things in Ripon we've done at this time.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay, this is number 2 of 20. And this one goes to Tamra first. And again, it looks like it's a 2-part as well. I'll read both questions and I can go back. And what do you believe is the single most compelling issue facing the city of Ripon? Tied on to that is, how can you resolve or advance this issue as a member of the city council?
Well, the single most compelling right now, I think, is, well, probably our downtown businesses with COVID, and making sure that they are getting the help that they're needing, that we are looking at different grant opportunities that we can reach out through the city to help them. I also want to mention traffic issues coming through Ripon. That seems to be a huge issue. And what was the second part
Well,
of
the
that?
second part of that is, okay, you've identified them, now what are you going to do about it?
Okay, so the second part was, so like I said, to help the businesses, I think there's grant opportunities out there through the county and through the state that the city can look at to help bring in money to add on to the program that the city did for the businesses that would help them financially. But for the traffic, I think that is a huge issue, and right now, just the freeway is probably the only way to make that better, is clean that up, and, yeah.
I think that question comes back, so you'll have another opportunity
Okay.
to get that too.
So
I
I'm
think
ahead of
that comes
schedule.
back. Okay, so now we go to Daniel. You want me to read it again?
Yeah, please.
What do you believe is the single most compelling issue facing the city of Ripon? Then how can you resolve or advance this issue as a member of the city council? And as we talked about before, just try to be specific if you can rather than generalities. That's what people were asking for.
Well, thank you for the question. Yeah, I think there's a lot of issues that the city faces. Maintaining the quality of life in Ripon and the community that we've all known, come to know and love, is near and dear to my heart. And I would say empowering public safety in the police department and keeping our city safe is probably the number one thing that makes Ripon the greatest little city here in California. Love to be here, and I'd say supporting the police department and giving them the resources and tools that they need.
Okay, thank you. Leo?
I think for me, the biggest long-term thing we need to deal with are the streets and roads in this town. We have 29 miles of streets and roads that need some sort of work in order to get them back up to the level of acceptability. To do that, it would cost $20 million. For me, the most important thing is to continue to work with the Council of Governments and with Caltrans and with anybody else that and the federal government that puts money out to get as much money as we can to this town so we can do something about that problem.
Good, thank you. Richard?
I'd have to agree that I believe that COVID is probably one of the biggest concerns for our community right now because we're still not through this thing. We don't know what's going to happen in the fall. We need to start thinking about how we're going to mitigate any further shutdowns that may come upon our city. And we need to be working with creative solutions to try to make sure we keep our businesses and our churches open if at all possible.
Good, thank you. To the other side, Tim?
You know, the streets and roads need fixing. But I think the biggest, simplest, or the issue affecting homes and families right now is the economic impact that everything's going to be happening. I mean, I truly believe, helping the 1,000 businesses or so that I help, we haven't even seen the economic impact of what COVID has done to our communities, to our businesses, to just the trickle-down effect of big business losing revenue. And so that is huge. And to fix that, there's not enough time in this answer to be able to go into that. But I do have some ideas that we can talk about eventually, hopefully.
That was the second part, but that wasn't enough time, I know. I think some of these will come back up again, going down. You brought up issues that you're bringing up comments to some of the questions that came in. Okay, this one goes to Daniel, and this is under public safety. With talks about now this is 3 parts, so I'm going to read all 3 and then I can go back and, with talks about defunding the police throughout the nation, what are your thoughts? How do you feel about the Ripon Police Department? Are there any possible improvements you believe should be made? And as far as C, if you can be specific, if you think there's improvements, what specifically do you think the improvements can be?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of the issues that we face with the police department coming down from the state and legislations that's passed, including reduction in sentencing requirements, declassification of violent crimes, DAs not willing to prosecute crimes, and a reduction in prison populations, which is releasing these criminals back onto the street. They commit a crime, and we catch them, book them, they're released before the paperwork's done. That's probably one of the biggest issues facing us being able to do our job as city council members. I've done my best to support the police department, everything that they need, and, we've increased, we got funding for the license plate readers, upgrading system to the camera system so we can track people coming in and out of town that are committing crimes, done those things. Supported our police department and allowing them to be able to do their job and work and share information with other agencies, including the federal government. So we passed a resolution April of 2018 supporting the federal government's legal challenge to SB 54, the sanctuary state bill. And lastly, I think with the police department, I am the only candidate of the 5 that has been endorsed by the POA and the Police Sergeants Association. So I'm appreciative of that, and I think I'm the best candidate to support the police and public safety going forward.
Thank you. So let me just go back. With talks about defunding the police throughout the nation, what are your thoughts? Your thoughts are not to defund the police.
Do
is what
not
it sounds
defund
like.
the police.
No, I just wanted to be clear, because that's what the question asked.
Fund
Leo,
the
do you want me to
police.
reread the questions? Right, okay.
I don't believe in defunding the police.
Good.
I believe that we should expect the best out of our police, and we should do everything we can to provide them with the training and the tools to do the best, and support them in every way we can. If criticism needs to be made, make it. But then stand up and say, if there's a problem, let's solve it, and give them the resources to do it.
Good. Thank you. Richard?
Absolutely not. No, I do not believe we should defund the police. Chief Ormond has done an incredible job with this city. The oversight of our police department is sitting, the people who sit in these chairs. I mean, if anything, we need to give more resources to our police force. Manteca is slowly creeping up on us, and in the future, I actually see that we would probably need a little bit more funding for our police department.
Good. Thank you. Tim, you okay with the question, or do you want to read
Yeah.
it? Okay.
No, defunding the police is an absurd idea that was born out of a lot of bad ideas to begin with. But, if there's one single biggest occupation that I help in my business, it's police officers. Out of my clients, I have probably 300 police officers I do taxes for, and I'm such a big supporter of the police. But I do notice one thing is that almost every other jurisdiction that I see, and we help these police officers with their taxes, is they're making more money than the City of Ripon police officers. I think we absolutely need more funding, and a lot of it is just in the payroll need to make sure we're getting the best qualified candidates for what they do, because they're so important in this community.
Thank you. Tamra, you want me to reread the question? You okay?
No, I'm good. I do not believe in defunding the police. Like I said, the police department is dear to my heart. I did meet with Chief Ramondi and was told that a few years back, there was a resolution done to reduce some positions over at the police department. And so I think that they definitely need more funding to replace those positions. And, it's really important to make sure they're fully staffed and have the equipment that they need.
Thank you. Okay, this one goes to Leo. Kind of long, so I'll read it twice if I need to. The Ripon Consolidated Fire District, as a separate entity from the city, has had 2 unsuccessful tax measures that were targeted at trying to keep pace with city growth while maintaining optimal EMS services for the city. As a city council candidate, do you believe the city should share any fiscal responsibility when it comes to ensuring the provision of ambulance and our fire department services for our community?
That's it.
Yeah.
We've had rather lengthy, and I think I could also characterize it as in-depth discussions about the relationship of the financing of the fire district versus the city, and there are a lot of legal problems with that. We have volunteered, and in my understanding is they are working on having a joint meeting between the fire board and the city council so that we can discuss these issues more in depth. And I also don't have a problem saying that the city council has gone on record as being willing to work with the fire district board to try to resolve the financing problems that they have, understanding that our ability as a governing body is limited by legal requirements we really can't do anything about.
Thank you. Richard?
That's something that's very important to me, mainly for the ambulance response. I mean, we need to be working with the fire department. I understand we're fiscally, they're responsible for themselves, but we need to be working with them to find a solution to support them to get the other fire station open on the other side of town. When that traffic hits at 5 o'clock at night, we're looking at timed responses from that fire station over there. They might not be able to respond to the other side of town quick enough. So we as a council need to work with them and support them financially to get them ahead.
Good, thank you. Em?
I agree with Richard and what he said. And I have been, the last couple of years, I've been trying to attend as many city council meetings as I can. So I've heard these debates and heard these legal challenges and understand Leo's argument and what the city attorney has said about the measures. And but there's got to be something that we can do. And I think when you get the right people in a room together, get everyone together and get ideas, I believe there's always something that can be done. But as a councilman, obviously, I'd support the fire district as much as I possibly could.
Thank you. Tamra?
Well, I sit on the fire board, and yes, we have a meeting coming up to kind of talk about this, and I do believe that the city should collaborate more than what is being done, and we definitely need to fill the other station that is sitting over on River Road empty. You want to repeat the question really quick and see if I,
No, I think
did
that,
I answer it?
No, that's good. No, you
Okay.
answered it, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. Daniel, you okay with the question, or you want?
Yeah, no, I'm good. So, yeah, sort of ditto to what Leo had to say. I mean, we've been working on this issue with the fire department back and forth multiple times, and it's something that obviously I do care about and passionate about. I think ultimately it comes down to me, for me and my professional experience as an engineer. We work with special districts all the time doing Prop 218, and I think the fire board and the fire department needs to, I think they made mistakes when they went through the last Prop 218 that they did, and I think they should go out and try the proper process one more time. I don't, certainly want to help out and work with them on that, but I think there's avenues that they legally should be going down, and yeah.
Okay, good, thank you. So that's a yes for everybody. This one goes to growth. And this one we start with Richard. Okay, this is 3 parts again. What do you think of the current growth rate established by the city council? Is it too high or too low? That's kind of A. B is, what do you think of the use of unused allocated building permits? And I can reread these later. And then C is, how would you change growth policies, if at all?
Well, I'll start off with the first question. So the city has a 3% growth cap. They haven't come close to that each year. We are maintaining like a 1.6, not even a 2% year over year over the last 10 years. I'm very concerned about the organic growth of our community, and by that I mean our children being able to buy homes here. It petrifies me to think about an ACE train station coming to the city. The amount of people that would come from the Bay Area over here to start purchasing homes, drive the home prices up, and make home ownership in this community unobtainable by my children and grandchildren is very frightening. The second part of the question, I'm sorry, could you repeat?
What do you think of the use of unused allocated building permits? In other words, when they're not used, what do you think of the program for the unused building permits?
I can't speak to that program because I'm actually not 100% familiar.
Okay.
And the third part of the question,
How would you change current growth policies, if at all?
I think the 3% growth that we have is very palatable. The only thing I would consider bringing back in to homeownership in our community is maybe they used to have the policy when the police had a loan program within the city so that they could purchase homes and live here. I'd like to see programs like that brought back in.
Okay.
But as for the 3% cap, I think that's perfect right now. And like I said, we're not obtaining that.
Okay. Tim, what do you think of the current growth rate established by the city? Is it too high, too low? What do you think of the unallocated building permits and what? if
Yeah,
you
no,
would
my
just-
understanding is that 3%, is kind of the base minimum according to the state. And the reason why we don't hit that is because our fees are high, which so I'm okay with. I love the fact that we're keeping this community small, like I said, safe and secure, and we're kind of controlling. I mean, there's some bit of control over that. As far as the housing prices that Richard mentioned, I don't think you can prevent that. The Bay Area people, the Bay Area atmosphere and the money is coming no matter what we do. And the housing prices, we're not going to be able to really directly affect those unless you grow big and you have more housing. If you keep building more and more housing like Manteca did, you cause a lot of issues. And so I love the fact that we have a lower growth rate to keep this community small, and I don't think I would change it right now. The unused permits, I just don't think we have time to address that.
What about the unused permits?
Yeah.
Do you know anything about that?
I'm not familiar with
Okay,
that
okay,
whole
that's right.
program, yeah.
Okay. Tamra, do you need me to restate the question?
No.
Okay.
So, I think the current growth rate, like everybody mentioned, is at 3%, and we are growing at less than that. And, I don't know anything about the unused permits, so I
Okay.
can't really speak to
Okay.
that. And how would you change the current growth? I don't think I would change it. I like Ripon small. I like to know my neighbors. I want to be able to go outside and talk to people. We have people moving in, but it's small enough to where those people get to know their neighbors. If we start becoming bigger, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So,
Good, thank you. Daniel, do you need me to?
So I'm, obviously, it was part of the process. I was involved in setting that growth cap. I think I advocated probably for maybe 2.5, a little bit less than the 3%. I'd like to keep us not as low as possible, but on the lower end. As far as rolling over permits, I don't think if you don't use all of them in a couple of years and you roll them over pretty soon, you're growing at 6% a year because you go build a 200-house subdivision. That doesn't make sense to me. So I get rid of them. If you don't use them, you lose them, kind of a deal. And then the last part was...
How would you change anything, and you just mentioned?
Yeah, I just think public safety, as you continue to grow, if you get too big, too fast,
Okay.
Police and fire aren't able to keep up, so.
Good, thank you. Leo?
I don't have a problem with the current growth limitation. Our current policy about building permits is a developer's allocated a certain number each year. If they don't use them, they go to the end of their agreement, and whether or not they can use them depends on how many other houses have already been scheduled. So it could go for a while. Relative to any sort of change, I'd like to deal with the lower cost housing. We have a program in place where 10% of the houses that are built in this town cannot exceed the FHA sale price for people to buy.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay, this has to do with traffic, which we've talked about, but we're going to talk about again. So this goes to Tim. What are the pros and cons of the planned multimodal station coming to Ripon within the next few years? And then what do you think about the location?
The traffic is a problem, obviously. If you've, my office is downtown. If I leave at 4:45-ish sometimes, it takes you 20 minutes to get past that traffic, getting to the other side of the freeway. I think there are ways to prevent that. I remember being at a city council meeting one time.
I don't mean to stop you,
Yeah.
but this has to do with, what are the pros and cons of the planned multimodal
East train.
station? Okay, yeah, multimodal station coming to Ripon in the next few years, and what do you think of the location?
I think we need to look at it. I'm not immediately opposed to the ACE train coming here. I'm not immediately all for it. I think we need to look at how it works there in the current proposed location over by, I believe, by the recycling center. You could potentially have a great place to promote more small business. I don't like the idea of having so many more people coming through town that it makes it harder on the police to control. I remember Chief Romani saying that if he only had to police the people that lived here, they wouldn't have anything to do. The police keep us safe from the ones that are coming outside of town, so you kind of lose a little bit of that control of who comes here if you have the ACE train coming downtown. But I also understand the need for those local restaurants and those local businesses and the bars that are coming to downtown to want that extra business and to need it. And so if we see, I'm open to the idea of having it. I'm not completely closed to the idea of having something like that come to town, and look forward to those discussions on the council, as that's what's on the next agenda, I believe, that the city's looking at.
Good, thank you. Cameron, you want me to read that, reread that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. What are the pros and cons of the planned multimodal station coming to Ripon within the next few years, pros and cons, and then what do you think of the location?
So I think some of the pros are, if people are catching the train downtown, then they might buy dinner, or when they get off the train, or maybe they pick up coffee or breakfast, or frequent our businesses down there before they get on and ride the train. The thing, maybe part of the cons, is I don't know if that's necessary for Ripon. I don't know if people here will ride it. So you're talking about funding. Probably, you've got one in Manteca, you've got one in Modesto, so I just don't know if it's necessary. I'm really on the bench about whether I think it's a good thing for Ripon or not.
We need more information, basically.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think the location of it is fine. It's close to downtown.
Okay, thank you. Daniel?
Yeah, and pros, obviously, if we can reduce some traffic, I don't know that the amount of people that are going to ride it from Ripon are going to make a huge impact on freeway traffic. I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference. It may bring some extra business to downtown, and may be able to bring, along with it, a parking structure or additional parking that supports downtown. I would like to see that as part of it, but I also don't want the city to have to foot the bill for this massive project and then see nobody use it. So I think there's long-term maintenance and things that go along with it that I think are good. As far as location, that's ideal location.
Okay.
No other place that really makes sense, so.
Thank you. Leo?
I don't have a problem with the location. I think it's important for people to understand ACE is coming. We have no control over that. They have $1 billion to extend themselves to Sacramento and to Merced, and they're going to do it. We have one opportunity to get a station. We are not going to pay the money for that. It'll all be paid for with grant money. The only thing we're going to have to figure out is how we're going to live with it, and I think it's worth the investment now so that we can deal with it as it grows, rather than have a problem later on because we didn't do it now.
Thank you. Richard, do you need me to reread it?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. I think the pro would be for the downtown businesses, that they would, they would receive some of that revenue from people riding the H train. The biggest con I would see was we're talking a 7,000 square foot facility with 150 different parking spaces. I'm worried about the traffic. We already have a traffic issue. We're going to congest our existing fire department. So what I'm looking for is we're going to need to mitigate those issues because they are going to come up and we're going to have issues.
Thank you. Okay, again, this is under the traffic heading. I know that confused the first part, and I apologize for that. So this looks like it has two parts. We start out with Tamra. Many residents and businesses are being impacted by commuter traffic during the evening hours. What specifically would you propose as a solution? What, if anything, has the current council done to mitigate the problem?
So, yeah, it is a huge problem. I've been in the middle of it at some point, and I think the city actually changed the timing of the light over on Jacktown and the entrance of Main. And I can watch it happen, but we have police officers on both sides and pulling people over constantly because people are trying to rush through that light, which is causing a safety issue. I think that to help that, again, we have to work with Caltrans and the state. They have to free up the freeway. They're going to have to figure out why it buckles through Ripon and stops, and because once you get to Austin, down past Main Street, it opens up. It's crazy. But yeah, I just think that we need to work with, again, Caltrans and other people to make the freeway work.
Okay, thank you. Daniel, do you want me to reread the questions?
No. Yeah. So there's certainly a lot of issues with the freeway that contribute to traffic coming through downtown. The Waze app certainly hasn't helped that. It directs people through downtown. So yeah, the council took action. We started discussions in June of 2018. We had our first discussions on the council to talk about this thing. We've looked at multiple options to try and figure out what we can do legally and affordably to try and redirect people around Ripon and get that app trained to not send people through this additional cost from wear and tear on our infrastructure. Unfortunately, now it's impacted largely by the traffic light on the freeway, the staging on the on-ramp. So Caltrans has made another problem for us. There we have it.
Thank you. So you're talking about the metering light that Caltrans has on the on-ramp. Okay. Leo?
I want to offer one explanation. The light change, or the timing of the traffic lights at Jacktone and Maine, there is a method to that, what some people call madness. If you can increase the amount of time that it takes somebody to get through an area past a certain point, Waze quits sending people that way. And that's what's behind what's going on over there. We are trying to get it slow enough that these automatic systems will quit sending drivers that way.
Thank you. Richard, do you need me to read the question again?
I mean, the traffic downtown is horrible. They're cutting through all portions of our, I think of our community. From talking to certain council members as well as the chief of police, I think the city is doing as much as it can to try to mitigate this problem. Going back to what Daniel said, I think that it's not helping with Caltrans and the metering lights and things of that nature. But I think we need to just try as hard as we can, maybe decoy cars, bigger police presence, maybe that would mitigate it.
Good, thank you. Tim, you need me to repeat the question?
No, there's clearly an issue. Obviously, everyone knows it. And this is one of those issues that's not easily solvable, right? There's no really one big, easy solution that can be changed this. And so I love the idea of using technology against technology, change all the traffic lights. Let's try to figure out a way to beat it, have the police be staged there, work with Caltrans. I mean, these are all great things you can do. And over time, I'm hopeful that between all those, the police department, the council, Caltrans, there can be a solution to help it, because it's just clearly an annoyance. We don't want to be having ambulances held up by the traffic from other cities. So I'm all for all these things that we've already talked about.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we've been going an hour and 5 minutes. Does anybody want to take a 5-minute or 10-minute break, or we want to keep going? We have about another 12 questions besides what we may get from the public. Up to you all. Everybody okay? Everybody good? Okay, so we'll just continue on. Okay, this is under the heading of Public Works. We're going to start with Dan, the engineer. Many Ripon residents are concerned with the quality of our roads and are frustrated with what we see as temporary fixes. Do you have any thoughts on how to comprehensively fix the quality of our roads?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and like Leo stated earlier, 20 some odd miles of streets and roads that are, to a large extent, struggling, and it's essentially $1 million a mile to replace an entire replacement of a street. I think what sometimes people see as a temporary fix, it's standard practice in the municipal world to go extend the life of an existing street. Part of the problem I see through lots of development projects is you plan for the original street, but there's never really enough money captured for the total life. Every 25 years, every 20 years, you got to go replace that street or improve that street. And that money isn't always planned for. It isn't always collected, or maybe it is, but not enough. So then we're struggling to try and find grants and try and find other money from other sources to try and pay for us. And it certainly doesn't help when we have all this extra traffic coming through on our roads, tearing them up even faster. I also see that people have concerns about certain intersections, like the Jacktone interchange. It's controlled by Caltrans. There's not a lot we can do about that. So we struggle with some of those areas. Unfortunately, pavement and streets is an issue that cities all up and down California have to deal with. And in reality, beyond some of the real bad ones in Ripon largely has a comparatively pretty good streets. So.
Thank you. Leo?
I think I'd like to point out that we really have a three-pronged approach to try to deal with this. We're now requiring that new streets built in town be with pavers rather than blacktop. Pavers last 3 times longer than blacktop does, and in theory, that should slow things down. We're also spending a significant amount of our money to overlay streets that are on their way to being bad so that they don't get any worse. And you can extend the life of a street anywhere up to 100% with that. Lastly, we're setting aside money. We have about $2 million set aside so that we can begin to work on these roads that need total rehabilitation.
Thank you. Richard? Sure, you bet. Many Ripon residents are concerned with the quality of the roads and are frustrated with what they see as temporary fixes. Do you have any thoughts on how to comprehensively fix the quality of the roads?
I would think that, first off, to piggyback on something that was said, I don't think the community ever anticipated the amount of traffic that we have on our roads. You're taking roads that were probably meant for a couple 100,000 cars to even double, triple that each year, with people going up and down our streets. I think the city is doing everything they can right now to mitigate that and to find solutions. In regards to what Leo said, the pavers will solve quite a bit of the problem.
Thank you. Tim?
I love the pavers idea. As our development, we're required now to do the pavers in the back of this alleyway on that development, and it's going to cost us twice as much to do it up front, but understanding that it's going to last 3 times longer and it's going to make it look better. And one of the things my clients always say when they come to Ripon, like, man, your streets are pavers. We love that. And it's a great look. It's a great economical solution. I love what Leo said about this 3-prong approach, is that you got to start fixing them now. You got to take a long-term approach and fix what you can now. And I think the city council has done a great job on trying to mitigate it and doing what they can so far. As Daniel said, I think our streets aren't as bad shape as a lot of other cities around us.
Thank you. Tamra, do you want me to reread the question? Are you okay?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Many Ripon residents are concerned with the quality of the roads and are frustrated with what they see as temporary fixes. Do you have any thoughts on how to comprehensively fix the quality of our roads?
So I had met with Kevin, and I understand that the city is putting money away for maintenance and repairs. The paver project over on Stockton, pavers are aesthetically, they look better, they do cost a lot more, and when you go to repair them, it doesn't look great. I mean, we've got a couple repairs on Main Street, and they just don't look well. I know developers are having to pay, as Tim said, for the pavers when they go into neighborhoods, but they do look good, and people like them, and we have a great community, and so, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, this one now goes to Leo. And this is, there's a narrative, then there's a 2-part question. Even though it is a fundraiser for our schools, some residents feel having no curbside recycling collection is lowering the number of people who recycle and is burden to those who do recycle. So here's the questions. How do you feel about the current way the Ripon community recycles? What are the benefits? And would you change the current way Ripon recycles? And if so, how?
I think all things considered, the way we're doing it now is the best way to do it. In 2019, we recycled 670 tons of material through that recycling center. That generated probably in the neighborhood of $25,000 to $40,000 for the schools. And saved the city roughly $50,000 because we didn't have to pay to haul it to a dump and pay the dumping fees. People are concerned about the limited hours. They have to remember that for now it's the parents that are doing this, and trying to get parents down there 5 days a week or 6 days a week is not easy. If we were to go to an extra can, which is what some people talk about, it would cost us a couple $1 million just to do that. We'd have to buy 2 new garbage trucks, 4,000 garbage cans, because we don't have them in front of the houses, and we'd have to put those in there. And then there's the cost of additional 2 employees to drive those trucks, plus the tonnage that we would pay when we take it to the dump or wherever we take it for recycling. I'm hopeful that in the not-too-distant future, we can increase the availability of the recycling center to the community, which I think will be the biggest problem they have for it now. And if that can be done, we're going to have a program that allows this city to meet a pretty significant requirement and save the residents a lot of money.
Sounded like you were the one to get that question first. And that wasn't planned. Richard, you want me to reread the question, or are you okay with it?
Thank you. Coming from communities that don't even have recycling programs, the recycling program in this city is amazing. To piggyback on what Leo just said, if we expend money to get new dumpsters in front of our homes, it's going to be a ton of money. This works just fine. And it's actually, my family, we do it every 2 weeks when it's open. We go down there and we drop off our recycling. And they recycle multiple things, not just your typical aluminum and glass.
Good, thank you. Em, you need me to reread the question? You okay?
No, I clearly think that the way it is now is the better system, and I thank you, Leo, for heading that up, and I see him down there working all the time, sweating and picking up cardboard. It's amazing what he's done. I actually think the bigger issue is that there's not a smaller size can for the garbage. I've been talking to some elderly people, and they say to maneuver those big cans down the road, and it's a hazard to them. And so I think that the bigger issue is we need a small can for a lot of the elderly people in our community, which is a lot of the people in the community. And I know there's issues with, with the trucks and how they pick up those cans, everything else, but I think that can be solved. And so that I would actually rather fight for that as opposed to a blue can for recycling, since we have the recycling program.
Okay, thank you. Tamra?
I think we have a good recycle program, and from what Leo said, it sounds like it would be very expensive to start a different type of program. But with that said, our hours are difficult to try to get down there. I don't think that we capture all recycles. We're throwing them away. So I think there's some other cities that maybe contract out with recycling companies that will come by and pick up their recyclables. And but I think that's something that maybe we look at further down the road.
Okay, good, thank you. Dan?
Yeah, not a whole lot to add. I mean, again, thanks to Leo for all the work he's always puts in. I mean, it wouldn't be the way it is without Leo. So I'm happy to have supported that over the last 4 years and make it happen. I think it's a great program, provides a huge benefit to the schools. It's a significant savings to the city. It's just incumbent upon the citizens of this community to take advantage of what we have out there. So I'm happy with the way it operates. I mean, I'm certainly under COVID. It would be nice to operate more hours and give people more freedom, but I'm happy with the recycling program we have.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Okay, this question now goes to Richard first. Some residents have complained that Missland Park is not a true public park, even though their tax money maintains it. What is your perspective or thoughts on that?
My thought process is it is a public park. I mean, anyone can attend there. It's not a private organization that you have to pay to get into. The city does pay for it, and they help maintain it, and it's a beautiful park. I mean, we should be very lucky to have it. There's not a lot to expand upon, except that the city should help pay for that. It is a public park.
Thank you. You bet. This one's going to go to Tim. Some residents have complained that Missland Park is not a true public park, even though their tax money maintains it. What is your perspective?
I don't know why they'd feel that way. My family, we use that park all the time. We go there. That my kids love that little area, the fountains area, and so I don't see that. And looking at the budget, I know that there's quite a bit of money set aside by the city to maintain that park, and it's beautiful. The grass is always short, and there's soccer there, and it's always beautiful. And the trees are growing in, and once they do, it's going to be shady, and I think it's going to be a great place for lots of families to go. So yeah, I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Tamra, want me to reread the question?
No. I think Missland Park, it is a beautiful park, and it is well maintained. I think what people's concerns are is the fact that it's leased out to, and I always say this wrong, TPR or something like that, so they don't feel that they can go use the baseball fields, and that is a huge problem. And also, I did look at the income and expenses, and our park is not paying for itself. And I think TPR does do part of the maintenance, and then we do part of the maintenance, or the city does. So I think there's some definite things that we need to look at for our facilities that are ran by Ripon.
Okay, thank you. Dan? Gil?
First off, it's a huge benefit to this city, and thanks to Mr. Mislin and the Mislin family for everything that they've done to provide the city with such a wonderful park, all the facilities. It continues to bring in, it's not just the revenue that comes from the TPR lease and just the people that are out there, but they go use other, they come to businesses to purchase food and stay in hotels when there's thousands of people that come and use that facility from outside of town and bring money to our community, not just what's through the lease of that facility, and largely it is public as well, so.
Okay, thank you. Leo?
I would, first of all, state that the lease income from Mislin Park pays roughly 90 to 92% of the maintenance costs for that park. The entire park, not just the fields. As far as access, there is access. You can't just drop everything on Tuesday afternoon and go over there. But one of the requirements of the lease is that there are periods of time when that park has to be available to the public, and all the public has to do is check with Mr. Stevens, and they can find out when those are.
Good, thank you. Okay, so Tim, this question's to you. Do you think our Main Street / downtown district is healthy and successful? If not, what would you, now, let's kind of set aside the COVID piece because we can all say no during COVID, but on a normal basis, do you think our Main Street downtown district is healthy and successful? If not, what would you do to change that?
Well, healthy and successful, what does that look like? Those are pretty relative terms. In my opinion, I suppose, look, there's almost every place is leased out. There's not a lot of availability to go downtown or get an office space downtown. I think that says something about the health of it. I believe we could use some more nightlife, some more restaurants, some more bars, which are coming. We happen to have a restaurant potentially come in our spot, and there's the Black Orchid Brewery come in, and maybe another brewery that we've been talking to come in our spot. And I think that's going to add to the health, and that's going to overall grow that up. I was part of growing some of the Tracy downtown area quite a bit. I was part of an investor group at the Tracy Press Building, and just seeing one thing pop up out of another, and it kind of grows naturally from there. And I think we can do that downtown to build, to bring more health and talk. And there's parking issues, and hopefully the A Train can help with that. But one big thing is we can do a good job of, or a better job of partnering with the chamber. I believe Kelly is an amazing asset, and the chamber hasn't ever been as healthy as it is in today. And I believe she's doing an amazing job at getting the businesses to come together, to do events together. And that always helps with the health and just the organization. She convinced us to do the scarecrow in front of my office this year, and so just those little things are fun. And it adds to the vibrancy in the ice cream shop downtown. And I think for even being in COVID, the fact that we're able to have the downtown as it is today and be able to go down there and get ice cream and get food and sit outside and enjoy wine is a testament to how healthy really it is.
Thank you. Tamra?
Yeah, I think we have a healthy downtown, and like you said, the occupancy kind of shows that. I would like to see more of a different mix of businesses downtown that would help feed each other. But with that said, we have a great downtown, and I hear that all over, so.
Yeah, good, thanks. Daniel?
Yeah, we got a great downtown. We've seen several new businesses pop up in the last couple of years. It's been growing and expanding, and the work Kelly and the chamber have done is pretty phenomenal. Been great to work with them and see them work, even now through COVID, to be able to bring all the businesses together to give us, work through providing information to help the city to make those decisions. And that partnership has helped downtown thrive. So, yeah, it's been great.
Leo?
I think it's important for the council to maintain open lines of communication with downtown. I think we have found with this COVID situation, the merchants have good ideas about what should, could, and ought to be done. We need to listen. And I think the chamber has done an excellent job of making itself a conduit to the city. And I think if you look at the recent past, the city has done a good job of responding to those identified needs and problems to support the downtown.
Good, thank you. Richard?
I think we have a very vibrant downtown. I have friends and family that travel from Turlock and Modesto to go to Pizza Plus and some of our other restaurants downtown. We are very well known for our downtown. I think the only thing that might impede us eventually was if we add more restaurants and bars, we might have parking issues, and then we'd have to mitigate that.
Good, thank you. Okay, this one goes to Tamra first. What can be done as a city to allow for more competitive environment for internet providers?
It's hard to speak of because I don't know the process that the city would go through. I know that they are looking at additional providers during this time, and we definitely need more than two. So we hear all the time all the problems that we're having and internet going down, and so the fact that, we really need to be able to provide more options for our community.
Okay, thank you. Dan, yo.
Yeah, it's a challenging one, particularly in existing neighborhoods. If you're talking about cable internet, something that's got to be undergrounded, it's almost impossible to go back through old neighborhoods and effectively install large-scale internet service. So that means wireless internet, satellite internet, which those providers have been expensive and difficult sometimes to get service everywhere. So it's a challenge. I mean, in new neighborhoods, new developments, if we can encourage multiple utilities to come and install their facilities, then great. That's a challenge that all cities face.
Leo?
I think the city needs to be receptive to new vendors that might come to town and offer the services. But the city also needs to be aware of potential issues and problems and try to deal with those before they become an issue or a problem, rather than after.
Richard?
I think competition is very helpful. We should be talking to other providers and other forms of technology, 5G, fiber, as many as we can get a hold of.
Good, thank you. Tim?
I think I know who asked this question because you asked this question to me at the Republican event that one night. Me and Daniel were there. And so I totally agree with you. At my office, I pay for Charter monthly, and then I also pay for Frontier monthly because Charter goes down. And so when it goes down, I have to unplug it and go into Frontier. So I get the problems. I get there's issues out there. But as Leo and Daniel said, that's a costly undertaking, and hopefully that we can come up with some kind of solution, maybe hold Charter more accountable when they go down for a whole day, something of that nature. I don't know the solutions at this point, but something that it definitely should be looked at.
Thank you. Okay, this is under the category of business and jobs. The first question goes to Daniel. What steps do you think can be taken to retain businesses and cultivate a business-friendly community?
Yeah, it's a great question. And like I said earlier, we implemented the economic incentive program a few years ago to try and get businesses established, that not only a program that helps the businesses reduce their fees in coming here, but also to attract businesses that will generate tax revenue, sales tax revenue for the city, and provide good jobs to people who want to live here, work here, and not have to commute. So that's an important part of what I feel like I have worked on over the last 4 years and want to continue to work on. Through that program, and some of the things that we addressed was reducing commercial development fees by 9.6% and reducing of office development fees by 19% to try and make us more competitive and make us not the cheapest city to develop in, but somewhere in the middle. So where when people are deciding, do I want to build my business in Manteca, or do I want to build my business in Turlock, or can I come to Ripon, we're competitive with them when we might not have the population to support those businesses. and the things that, the metrics that businesses use to decide whether they want to come here. So if we can make it more attractive for them to be here and make it more cost-effective for them to be here, long-term we can keep them healthy and keep them growing and be able to provide those jobs in our city.
Good, thank you. Leo?
I need to hear it again.
Sure, you bet. What steps do you think can be taken to retain businesses and cultivate a business-friendly community?
I think we've taken the first steps already, and we need to build on those to try to help businesses with fees, to try to help them with establishing places to build, places where they can build. And I also think it's important that we're very clear up front about what kind of a community they're coming to and what kind of expectations we have for those businesses as far as performance and fitting in with the community and that sort of thing. So there's no surprises and no arguments later on.
Thank you. Richard?
I think that the number one problem with most companies when they go to any area to build is the fees. I've run companies in Houston, I ran a company in Stockton, and especially in Stockton, the fees will kill you. So we as a community need to be working with new businesses that want to come and do business. They did a great job with Bow Country, and try to work with them for financial solutions to get them to stay here.
Good, thank you. Tim?
Yeah, I'm all for, looking at the fees and trying to reduce that cost structure to bring them here. But those fees are there for a reason. For one, it keeps out certain businesses that we don't want here, like a Walmart or something. We know there's reasons why we have those high fees. And cultivating, or how do we retain business here? Coming to Ripon was one of the best things I ever did in being downtown, having a business downtown. And so I think as a council member, I just tell people my story, how encouraging the chamber is and how encouraging their businesses in town and how we're located right in the 99. There's so many people that like coming to Ripon, and by helping to develop downtown Ripon, I think that'll entice people to stay.
Okay, thank you. Tamra?
I've heard from businesses, and I definitely think we need to look at our fees that we're charging. I know two businesses just recently that have businesses here, but they've expanded outside of Ripon because it's just too difficult, is what I'm being told. I think some incentives would help. We need to make sure that we have property that's shovel-ready. So I don't know, did I answer the whole question?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this question goes to Leo. It's an A and a B. So I'm going to read them both, and I'll probably have to read the second one again. What do you think of the current incentives the council has established to attract businesses, and what would you do differently, if anything? And then secondly, please give an example of a business you think would consider Ripon as a place to move, and what value would add to the Ripon residents.
I'm not sure I would change the incentive program because it's not a hard and fast incentive program. When we've talked about this and we've worked with the planning department, what we try to do is identify the things that stand in the way of a business coming here and try to attack those. And they're not always the same for every business. So if you said we would forgive 50% of the fees, maybe the fees aren't the problem with one, that it becomes the ability to hook up to utilities or something, and is there a way we could fix that? So in that term, I think we're fine. I think we have the potential to be flexible, and I think that's going to be important. My answer to the second part is probably going to be a little weird. Questions like that assume that cities can go out and get businesses to come. My experience is that doesn't happen. What you want to have is a situation that makes you attractive to those businesses. Businesses that people want in town would mean some of them that people have talked to me about, we'd have to triple the number of people in Ripon in order to get that business to come here. So now all of a sudden you better ask yourself, do you like the town the way it is? Do you want it to stay the way it is? Then that business is probably going to be someplace else, and you're going to have to go to it rather than come here. And I think that discussion is healthy, and it needs to always be had.
Thank you. Richard?
I cannot speak to the current incentives, but what I can speak to is what draws me to do business in different communities. And to Leo's point, it's not incentives sometimes. It's, can I hook up to electrical? Do you have sufficient power lines? Do you have adequate internet infrastructure pieces that make me want to go there? I'll overlook fees and costs if I'm overwhelmingly going to have an advantage to be in the community.
Good, thank you. Tim?
Look, again, I don't have a problem with the fees and incentives where they stand. I think people, we see development happening in Ripon. You look at Primo's and Austin's and Fina and that development. It's looking beautiful over there, and people are flocking to that area. And the new Clean Eats market's coming. You know, you start creating that environment, and the businesses will pop up. You know, and the developers, if they're seeing what's happening here, and the clientele is here, and I'm, you know, I believe we're on the right track as a city.
Thank you. Tamra? You want me to repeat the question? No, you're up next.
Yeah, please repeat the question.
Yeah, sure. What do you think of the current incentives the city council has established to attract businesses, and what would you do differently, if anything? And then please give an example of a business you would think would consider Ripon as a place to move, and what value it would add to the residents.
Yeah, I just think that we need to take a look at our current fees. And the developer that did build Fina's and the apartments and everything, I mean, there's issues right now going on with the gas station that they want to put in over there. I met with the developer last week, and we had a long conversation about the project. But we need to make sure that, that again, it's businesses that are right for Ripon. Thank you.
Good, thanks. Daniel?
Yeah, I think there's things, maybe some tweaks we can make to the incentive program to try and maybe make it more attractive or provide more flexibility in it. I think it's a good program. It's been successful already. I know a lot of people talk about, and Leo already addressed it, but you know, people talk about Whole Foods or something like the Trader Joe's coming to town. It's never going to happen, and like you said, unless we triple our size, and that's not going to happen for another 20 years. So, and at that point, they'll probably have different metrics. So getting projects like on River Road with Clean Eats coming in provides those services and the things that people want, but maybe on a smaller scale, on a more local level, and that's really what I would want to try and attract.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay, Richard, this goes to you first. Are there businesses you would oppose moving to Ripon?
Right out of the box, it would be big box stores. I mean, I think that we pride ourselves in being a small community and supporting small local businesses. Someone up here said it earlier, I would hate to see a Walmart coming here. I'd hate to see a large hardware store that would compete with Skimpers, which is great. I think it would be the larger companies I would be opposed to seeing them come.
Okay, good. Him?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think everyone in Ripon feels the same way. You know, just avoid the big box stores, avoid, you know, the Home Depot, Walmart, somebody that can put the local businesses that we have out of business. I think that's easy. I don't want to say I'd be opposed to any specific one business just because it's that business. I think we got to take a look at all the facts and circumstances around that, but those would easily come to mind.
Okay, good, thank you. Tamra?
I think we need to look at all businesses that might want to come into Ripon. I made the comment that I also did not think that big box stores were appropriate for Ripon. And I had someone that has lived here since 1966 ask me why, because it brought in jobs, and they felt that the smaller businesses come and go. And they would rather shop in Ripon and spend their money at a store that provided products where they could do that instead of having to go somewhere else. So I think it's just something that we need to look at it on a one-to-one basis.
Case by case. Okay, good, thank you. Daniel?
Yeah, and I certainly support the idea of small, local, family-owned, family-run businesses. Again, it goes back to, it's not the council's job. It's not, we don't have the ability to go out and, you know, people always ask, why don't we have a car wash? Why do we put in another Starbucks? And oftentimes it's because private businesses want to build here and they choose to build here. So I can't force someone to build a car wash in Ripon as a city council member. If a private individual wants to come and build out here, then great, I'm happy for it and willing to support that. Obviously, small businesses, and I'm not going to support the Walmarts, the big box stores. That's not what Ripon's about, and they're not going to come here anyway, so.
Okay, thank you. Leo?
I think my biggest concern are these huge warehouse-type businesses. I'm not sure I want those built around the edge of this town. I read and talk to people in Manteca and Tracy. Tracy's a little different because they're set outside the city. Manteca, they're almost downtown, and traffic and that sort of thing, I'm not sure we're ready for that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, there's 5 more questions before, take a breather, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this for anybody that may have some questions that want to send them in. If the community has any questions, please submit them in the comments of the video via the Chamber Facebook page or the myripon.com Facebook page. Because we're getting to the end, so if you have something, you need to send it in. Have we got anything in? Okay, so we have some, so take some water, kick back, relax. Okay, this one is under the heading Finance and Procedure, and this one goes to Tim. Do you feel the reserves set up by the city are appropriate and adequate, or should there be others? And should the amount be adjusted, and if so, by what amounts?
I can't speak to the exact amount of the reserves that the city has right now. As I'm picturing, I have poured through the 2021 budget. It's in my office, sitting in a rack on my desk. I look at it once in a while because that's what I do. I'm a CPA. I like to look at the numbers. I've looked through those numbers. It's been fun for me in some ways. I asked a bunch of questions to Kevin about, hey, why is this there? What's this there? And I'm drawing a blank on what the reserves are. But, look, reserves are important. In any business, any government, any, individual, you have to have reserves. I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan. You got to have reserves. You got to have that cash on hand for when something goes wrong, because inevitably it goes wrong. Our economy goes up and down. The sales tax revenue that comes in the city is going to go up and down. And so, the reserves should always be looked at. We should always have enough on hand. How much? I don't know. I don't think there's one specific answer to that, but absolutely, you'd be foolish not to have reserves. I believe the last time the city of Ripon went through the economic crisis from 2008 timeframe, I believe they had reserves and it held us through, if I recall. And that was huge. I don't think the city felt as big of an economic impact as a lot of other cities. Why? Because of our reserves. And I think the city manager, Kevin, and the council has done a great job at that.
Thank you. Tamra?
Yeah, I think our reserves are appropriate, and I could be wrong about this, but I think that they are taking 30% of the reserves and allocating those to our roads and maintenance. But we've always had I shouldn't say always, but we do have a surplus, and the city is run well, and I think that it's going very good.
Thank you. Dan? Gil?
Yeah, I think being fiscally conservative is what is going to help us weather the storm, whether it's a 2008-style economic crash or a 2020 COVID-19 situation. It's absolutely essential that we manage the city like a business and make sound financial decisions for the long term and not just be spending money because we have it. And you see so many cities that are struggling. It's not getting any easier, so I think we've done a good job and continue to work on that.
Good, thank you. Leo?
I think the reserves that we have are more than adequate. I think the one caution I have maintained is sometimes you get so wrapped up in making sure you have enough money in the reserves that you over-reserve. And there are times when you need to buy something or spend some money on something. And as long as the reserves are adequate, it's important that you look at those things once in a while and spend the money so that the town can remain the way it is and still be fiscally sound.
Thank you. Richard?
I think it's incumbent upon everyone to think about over the next 6-7 months, because we are obviously in a pandemic right now. We need to be thinking about tax revenues and things of those natures that fund the city and start to make sure that our reserves are enough. I'm sure they are. I've sat with numerous people and they've told me what the reserves are within the city, but we should be consistently reevaluating them to make sure we do have enough saved for a rainy day.
Thank you. Okay, this one goes to Tamra. What is your approach to the current budget process, and what would you do differently, if anything, to make sure the city stays financially solvent?
Well, I think the current approach is fine what they're doing, because obviously we have a reserve, we have a sound city. Other cities are not in that shape. So I think what they're currently doing is right and appropriate.
Okay, good. Makes me feel good. Daniel?
I think the council's done a good job in previous councils as well, setting us up for long-term financial sustainability and security. I think it's something that we need to constantly evaluate. During the COVID situation, we've gotten more regular updates, and the staff has presented the current situation to us more regular than in the past. I think that's helpful, and maybe something that we can continue to do long-term is to continue to address it, continue to look at it, and make sure that we're good for the future.
Thank you. Leo?
I'd like to give a lot of credit to the staff. As a council member, I'm not always in direct contact with what's going on, what needs there are, how much money is needed to do some things. And our staff does an outstanding job of communicating that to us. If there's a problem, they're not afraid to tell us what it is, and they're also not afraid to offer us possible solutions. They're also not afraid to be told, nope, not good enough, go do something different. I think it's that working relationship between the staff and the council that has gone a long way to keeping us fiscally sound.
Good, thank you. Richard?
Also, I would add would be that we just need to be, every day when I work, I look at my financials every day. We need to be consistently looking at our financials and make adjustments as necessary and make changes as needed.
Good, thank you. Tim?
Yeah, I ditto Leo, what he said with the staff. It's been pretty impressive to watch. As I've met with Kevin a couple times and to see his passion for what he does and how he's leading him and his staff and the city. He's done a fantastic job. You know, it sounds maybe a little nerdy, but I think the presentation of those financials might need a little refining. And I would love to help out with that, just to help in that budget process of developing that budget. I don't know if city council or, how many people actually understand in that big packet what's in there, how to read it, what do these things mean. And so I would love to kind of make it more accessible so people know what's going on, and the council is very intimately involved with, how it's working.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this one goes to Daniel, and it's under the heading, if elected, in your case, re-elected. How will you make sure you hear the voices of your constituents?
Great question. And I think at the end of every council meeting, Leo's laughing because it's true, but I am, deeply appreciative of the people who attend the council meetings, who listen to them on YouTube, who follow what we're doing, and who provide comments to us. As a council member, I can sit up here with the other 4 council members and city staff and no one in the audience and no one providing feedback to us, and we can make decisions. Hopefully they're the right ones. So I try and stay engaged as possible through different functions and events that are going on, trying to reach out to members of the community, the business community, staying in close contact with the chamber, knowing what's going on there. But it's really incumbent upon the members of the community to be able to reach out to us too. I think all 5 members of the council currently are easily approachable. We're accessible through email, phone, however you need to get a hold of us. What I do see is a little bit frustrating sometimes is in social media, people will share something that they think that everybody sees, or because that they shared it, it's been addressed, it's going to get addressed at the city council. When if you're on social media, you can send me a message through social media. I'm happy to respond to it. So I would just encourage everybody, if you have an issue, if you have a concern, reach out to us, talk directly to us. You want to sit down and have a coffee and talk about it, happy to do that. You want to give me a phone call, I'll give you my cell phone number. I'll talk to you. I'm more than happy to have people come and talk to me and address the issues. That's how we're able to make the decisions that we make. So that's.
Thank you. Leo?
I agree with just about everything that Daniel said. I think we work hard to make ourselves accessible. I think it's important that people feel like you listen to them rather than talk at them all the time. Sometimes they may not like the response they get, but as long as they understand what you're trying to do and what you're trying to say, my experience is they're happy with that. And I think the community as a whole feels that they can get a hold of us and tell us what they are concerned about.
Thank you. Richard?
First off, Daniel, I think I told you the first time I met you that your end of the meeting statements are always my favorite thing. So, yeah. I would make myself accessible to the public. This last weekend, I made myself accessible to some people who had sent me Facebook posts. And communication through social media is just not good. So I met people at the coffee shop and sat there and talked to them. So I will make myself accessible if elected to this office.
Thank you. Tim?
You know, I'm going to do what I'm doing. I'm in the community. I visit the local coffee shops. My family's around. We're at Garden Joy. We're at downtown walking and visiting the businesses. I have over 600 clients that live in Ripon. And I'm constantly in communication with the constituents, with the people of this town. And I plan on doing kind of the same thing I'm doing. And hopefully you can do it even more. And people understand that they can just come by my office downtown and we can chat and see what's going on. But I agree, they're not always going to like the answer. The city council can't do everything. We don't have dictatorial powers to make things happen, but being open and being available and communicating is something that I do already, and I look forward to doing even more.
Okay, thank you. Tamra?
Kind of the same thing everybody's saying, you need to make yourself accessible. I think setting up office hours where people know that they can come in and talk to you would work. Continue to be involved. I'm involved in a lot of things here in Ripon, and I see a lot of people when I'm out, and I think that's important. Also, attend chamber events, I think is important. It puts you out there. And then social media. I had someone say to me yesterday that they appreciated the fact that I was on social media. Sometimes it's not pleasant, but it gives people access. The way virtual meetings are going anymore, set up a Zoom meeting. I mean, there's so many avenues, but I think that what I'm hearing is that we need to be more communicative to the community.
Okay, thank you. Leo, this goes to you. How do you view the role of the city council member in relationship to city staff?
I guess the best definition I could give, in my mind, the city council tells the city staff what to do. The city staff figures out how to do it. And I think it's important that the council stay away from the how-to business. I work very hard not to tell the staff how to do their job. I work very hard to work with the other 4 council members to make sure they understand what it is that we want them to do. And I think makes for a pretty healthy relationship. If the hows don't work, or if the hows cause a problem, then as a council, you deal with the employee, but you don't tell them how to do their job.
Good, thank you. Richard?
I think it's exactly like running a business. You set expectations for your employees, and you give them criteria that needs to be met. And to Leo's point, you rely on them to be able to do their job. I'm not going to tell Kevin how to administer the city. Kevin's going to present to the council, and we will view his findings and make decisions based on that. If we're not happy with them, we'll send them back. But we are not here to tell them what to do, but we're here to give them guidance and tell them our expectations.
Thank you. Tim?
I couldn't agree with Leo more. I think once you see some of the councils in other cities around us where the city council acts like trying to get in the nitty-gritty of what's going on into the city staff's business, and that's not what the city council is about. Like Richard said, it's more like a business model. I give them, at my office, I give somebody, I say, hey, you could take care of this, and they do it, and it's done. And it's not something we don't need to be micromanaging the staff here. Clearly, they do what they do, and they do it well, and they have done it well. And I think it's just about giving direction only to the staff.
Okay, thank you. Tamra?
I think it's like any board. I think they're an oversight committee, and they give direction to Kevin, which runs the city. Nobody sitting up here is experienced to run the city the way Kevin is. And so I think, we're here to, again, oversee the budget, to make sure that the community is being informed as an elected official, and to make sure that the city is running properly.
Good, thank you. Daniel?
I think Leo nailed it. Ultimately, the council's here to set policy. We're not here to tell everybody how to do their job, and I don't look at it at all that way. I believe we all, 5 current council members, have a great working relationship with staff. They do excellent work, and been awesome to work with them. So I hope to continue to be able to do that.
Okay, good, thank you. So there's one more question that we have, 2 parts. When we get done with this question, we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to go to the questions that we got. How many do we have? Holy smokes, well, we'll have to vet through them. You'll be home for breakfast. This goes to Richard. The city council must render decisions regarding the implementation of policies and/or programs that may be difficult. There's 2 parts. Are you willing to take on the responsibility of making decisions that are in the best interest of the public, even though they're difficult? Have you ever avoided making a decision or changed your mind because you thought it was unpopular, but it was the right thing to do?
It's a very timely question, because I just had this conversation with a citizen on Saturday. First, to answer the first part of the question, I have no problem making tough decisions at all. Would I backtrack because it was unpopular, or I felt that I was going to get issues were going to happen within the media or public and things of that nature? No, I'm a firm believer that if you make a decision, you stand behind it. You stand behind your convictions. You stand behind your convictions as a Christian. Don't ever be afraid to stand behind what you believe in. And so the crux of the question is, I don't have a problem making hard decisions, and I will stand behind and follow through on the decisions that need to be made.
Good, thank you. Tim, do you want me to repeat the question?
No, it's okay. No, I make difficult decisions every day that affect, lots of people's finances or whatever, and so I don't have a problem with that. And backtracking just seems like a terrible idea just because it's unpopular. I can't imagine. I know the pressure could be strong to do so, but I would hope I'd have the conviction and the courage and make decisions not on the whim of emotion, but on principles. And so I believe I'm a principled person, and I believe I'll make decisions based on my principles. My principles guide me as opposed to opinions. And the beauty about a council is it's a council. I don't do it myself, and I'm going to rely on a lot of the staff and the council members to help make those decisions.
Okay, good, thank you. Tamra?
No, I have no problem making difficult decisions. I think as long as I have all the facts and information behind whatever decision I'm making, that's what's important, and I will definitely stand behind it.
Okay. Daniel?
Yeah, I think ultimately every decision I make, my faith and my convictions drive where the things that I believe in, the direction that I go with, the decisions that I make. I'm certainly willing to admit that I was wrong if I made a decision that was bad, and happy to correct that. But ultimately, I think if I've made the right decision and it's something that I'm going to stand behind, no problem making the right decision for the city.
Okay, thank you. Leo?
I think it's important that when you find yourself in a situation like that you do as much upfront work as you can. You need to be as thorough as you can be to look at as many of the aspects of that problem as you can to minimize the possibility that you're going to make a decision that you wish you hadn't. Does that mean you're never going to do that? No. But if it's a decision that needs to be made, and I believe it's the right decision, I'm going to stick with it.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay, so why don't we, what time does everybody have? So why don't we reconvene then at 5 minutes after 8? Is that okay? So if everybody take a little break, and then we'll get our questions together here. So, is everybody?
Yeah.
How many questions did you say we were gonna
So these have come from the community. We had a lot of questions. We're going to ask 5 or 6 that are not, that are relevant, let's put it that way. So we're going to start out with Tim. I'm going to read it the way it came in, so I can't interpret it for you. We'll go a minute and a half, 30, 30, 30, then a minute and a half. Will that work okay for you all? Okay. So the first, how can the city support the police department with regards to having other types of services that don't really fall under their job description? Homelessness, mental health, as those services are not available.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Something that hits home hits home a little bit, because I actually had this conversation with somebody the other day. I'm trying to think of who it was, but police officers are responding to calls that they're not trained on. And it's the mental service calls, and we gotta have, there's gotta be some better way to do that. There's no easy answer to this question, though. I think police departments around the country are struggling with how to handle this. But you look at the statistics, and it is there that when police are responding to these calls, and it's a situation that is a mental health issue, they are not equipped to deal with that appropriately. But I believe Chief Romani's been doing a great job with what they've done so far. But no, there is a better way. I don't know that answer. I think we look at it. I think we spend a lot of time looking at that. I think you prevent a lot of tragedy from happening if you can send a different type of officer, a different type of team to some of these issues where officers just there's just no training. There's not enough training in the world to train officers to handle every situation. We can't expect that of our officers and put them in a position to fail in that way. So that's a great question. I think we strive to do something about it.
Thank you. Tamra, you want me to read that again, or are you okay?
I'm good. I just had this conversation with Chief Armandi, and I think part of it, the whole defund the police thing, they want to give funding to hire more social services or mental psychologists or whatever to deal with these rather than the police. He told me that when they're out there and they reach out for these services, they're not responding. And I think that's a huge issue. So it's putting our police, again, in a situation that's not safe. But, I think our police department does a great job with what they have.
Good. Thank you. Daniel?
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of pressure put on our police officers and the things that they have to deal with on a daily basis. And fortunately in Ripon, maybe some of those issues aren't as bad as in other cities. But one of the things that we rely on is the county resources. And unfortunately, a small city like Ripon's not able to hire a full-time psychologist to deal with a mental health situation. So we rely on those county services, and certainly there's more that we could do at the county level to try and help those and provide those services and to partner with them and the police department. It's a struggle that all small cities and even counties deal with across the state, and something that's going to continue to be an issue.
Thank you. Leo?
I think it's important that the city administration and the council constantly be open to input from the police department as to what issues they face, what needs they have, and what solutions they might propose. And I think it needs to be a two-way conversation. Some of that's going to come to us before it comes to them, so we need to go talk to them. Some of it's going to come to them before it comes to us. They need to bring it to us. And we just need to be open to the fact that there are more problems out there than we know about, and there are solutions that we need to be ready to look for.
Thank you. Richard?
We need to be working with the chief to exactly that, to find out what the police department needs from us, what further training would we need for our officers to make them more adept at dealing with these situations. We also need to be working with the county and frankly on the county to provide us the services as a city that we are entitled to. It's a very difficult thing, mental illness, and we need to be making sure that our police force has the tools that they need to succeed.
Thank you. Okay, the second question goes to Tamra. Would you be willing to put up an emergency action to open up our city's business in the same way Atwater and Placer County have. I can't define what they've done, so I can't interpret that for you.
Yeah, I don't know what Atwater has done, or, I think maybe what they're talking about is putting up the action to, I don't even know what the word's called, but to not abide by our state rules and, let our businesses open. I mean, you guys did it with the, there's a state of this, I don't know, anyway. But yeah, I think that's what they're talking about, and would I be willing to do that? I think that safety plays a role in that, and with COVID and CDC, we need to follow all the guidelines, and I think that's important, but we also need to respect our businesses and make sure people are able to go to work.
Good, thank you. Daniel?
Yeah, I think ultimately people need to be responsible for their own well-being. It's not my job to tell you every single thing you need to do. The policy we've implemented as a city to address the concerns is really to give people the flexibility and the freedom to make those decisions and not be the nanny state big government trying to tell you what to do with your life and everyday stuff and how to run your business. I think the policies that maybe some of these other places have tried to implement are the more for show than they are for really they carry any weight. Ultimately, a lot of businesses are struggling because of what the state's doing and their licensing and whatnot. So only so much we can do at the city level.
Leo?
I wouldn't be willing to make sort of a blanket decision one way or the other. I think that the process that the city has pursued is the best course of action. You identify a problem, you identify potential solutions, and then you begin to work towards implementing those solutions to address the problem. Just ending it all, so to speak, by saying that none of the rules apply, you're going to pay for that sometime. But I think if you're rational and consistent, you're going to get to the same place in a lot better shape.
All right, thank you. Richard?
I believe Atwater is I have employees that work there, so I know this. Atwater's opened up their businesses as a business sanctuary city. They're letting businesses regulate themselves based on CDC guidelines. Am I for that? I'm for anything that is legally acceptable for us to do to get our businesses open. CDC has set down guidelines in regards to what should and shouldn't be done. We should respect that, but we should also respect our small business.
Thank you. Tim?
I would like to say absolutely yes. Every ounce of me would want to go against. I don't agree with the CDC guidelines. I don't agree with Gavin Newsom's guidelines. I think the system they developed is terrible. But to actually, from a city council standpoint, say no, we're just going to open up. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I'd try to find some way to allow the businesses to open up and govern themselves, and maybe say we're not going to enforce those rules. If the state wants to come in, that's on you local business. But I would make sure something's got to be done. I love what Ron DeSantis in Florida's done. He's opened up because the numbers just aren't there for this issue, and it's killing small business and local stuff, and it's driving me nuts. So I think I would ultimately somehow.
Thank you. Okay. You're next. Daniel's next. Okay. Well, I got the names. I wrote the names on the cards. Just want to make sure I get it right. Okay, so let's see. What are your plans pertaining to city's water issues concerning TCE contamination of city's water supply, including potential threats posed by TCE vapors?
That's a good question. It's obviously something that's important to me as an engineer who works largely in the water field. It's something that I feel like I probably bring the most experience and practical work in that particular issue. I've worked on projects that address that exact issue. The city and our approach to the water and our water meets all of the state's guidelines. We provide a safe drinking water. My time served on the South San Joaquin Groundwater Sustainability Agency and through the Advisory Water Commission, I think we've been trying to address the issue, trying to get a project funded to be able to provide treated drinking water, surface water from SSJID. Manteca, Escalon, a couple other cities have that. We didn't take advantage of that several years ago when the city could have joined that program. I think I wish we would have at the time. It's going to be a lot more expensive for us to do that now. So that's a huge project that I would really, really like to continue to work on and try and get funding for. We're generally at a disadvantage on trying to get grant funding. It's something that I'm passionate about water and want to do everything I can to try and help that situation. That contaminant specifically, there's things we're doing to try and treat it and address it going forward. We've been working on it. It's something that's going to continue to be an issue. Groundwater is not something that you can impact immediately. It's something that's got to be treated at the source and treated at where you're pumping it from, or replace that source of water. So that's
Okay.
what I'd work on.
Thank you. Leo?
I'd just like to build on what Daniel said relative to TCE. The city is or has taken action and is taking additional action. At the point that that well became a problem, it was taken offline. There was a problem with a cleaning schedule or something that caused a slight problem, but the well is basically gone from the system until it gets worked out. And we're in the process of working on a solution to that so that the well can be brought back online. But it won't be until we know that the water coming out of there is safe.
Richard?
Well, I can't speak to the water, but what I can speak to is professionals who know what they're talking about. Obviously, Daniel is very affluent when he talks about water so passionately. And if on the council, I would defer to the experts in regards to what their recommendations were in regards to our city's water and what they felt was in the best interest of our community in regards to how we are servicing them with that.
Thank you. Ken? Sure, you bet. What are your plans pertaining to city's water issues concerning TCE contamination of city's water supply, including potential threats posed by the TCE vapors?
Yeah, gosh, I don't have any plans, but I do like what Richard said. We got to defer to the professionals. We have to seek the counsel of many in that situation, and defer to people like Daniel, who seems to love water. And you got to fix the issue. We can't have TCE in our water, period. And so, how do we fix it? Let's go find out.
Tamra?
You know, we keep hearing that it meets all state guidelines. We live in the valley where we have agriculture, and it's been going on for many years, and so we get a lot of things probably in our groundwater or in our wells. I think it's sad what people are concerned with and some of the cancer cases that we've been listening to. But, you know, we've also been told that our water meets state guidelines, and I think that's important. I am not an expert. I probably can't really speak to this, but I think it's something that we need to look at as we go forward to make sure that we all are safe.
Good. Yeah, it's a tough situation. Thank you. Okay, this one goes to Leo first. A comment was made that Mr. Kai Stevens does not return calls in a timely manner. What role is it of city council to ensure staff follows up with the community? Sorry, I had to read it.
Well, I think I mentioned this earlier in the evening. In my mind, the first place that a person ought to go if they have a concern, a question, proposal, whatever, is to city staff. In my mind, it is the obligation of the city staff to respond. If that is not happening, then the next step is you go to the city administrator, and that person has the same responsibility, and I think the council has the same expectation that the question, situation, issue that's raised by the public needs to be addressed. If that doesn't work, then the next place you come is this building on a Tuesday night, and you tell us what's going on and what your concern is, and we'll deal with it.
Thank you. Richard?
I would agree with Leo. I mean, there's chain of command. If you have a subordinate at a lower level within your company, you refer them to their supervisor. The supervisor doesn't get accomplished then it goes to the manager, it goes up the chain. If nothing is being resolved, you go to the top and talk to them because the buck stops at the top. It is then the top's responsibility to take care of that problem and make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, in a situation like this, as a city councilman, I would want to be open, but for something like that, I think you would have to see the staff first, like Leo said, and it would fall onto the next level up, and if that person, that individual that wasn't getting anywhere, then come talk to me, and then maybe I can talk to the city administrator and see what happened, and see the situation. Communication can be dealt with, and I think those are easy issues to solve and kind of talk through.
Okay. Tamra?
Can you read that again?
Sure, you bet. A comment was made that Mr. Kai Stevens does not return calls in a timely manner. What role is it of city council to ensure staff follows up with the community?
Yeah, just the comments that have been made up here, I definitely think the chain of command is important. And I think if it's brought to city council's attention, then they probably need to go to Kevin and have that discussion, and then Kevin needs to handle it.
Good, thank you. Daniel?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to address any specific personnel issues tonight, if there are any. It's the first I've heard of something like that. But if, maybe someone does have an issue with a particular person, maybe they don't feel comfortable calling Kevin, the city administrator. So I have no problem in a situation like that if someone had to, skip a line in the chain of command and maybe come to me and say, hey, can you talk to Kevin, or can you talk to the particular individual to get a response? That seems like a pretty specific one-person maybe issue. If it's a broader problem, then it's something we certainly need to address. But,
Okay.
I don't know how much more we can address that tonight.
Okay. Next question doesn't look like it's going to take long to answer, so where have your signs been printed, Ripon or outside the community? This goes to Richard first.
I printed them outside the community.
I guess that's all this person's looking for. Tim?
Yeah, I had Ripon Print Studio do with them. I think, we could have got them online, not because they were cheaper, but I really did want to support Ripon Print Studio, its new location, so I had them print them here.
Tamra?
I think it's very important to support local businesses, but when you're printing 400 signs and 20 big 4x8s, you kind of have to go where the price is the best. And so mine was outside the community.
Okay. Daniel?
Yeah, largely my signs are reused from my last campaign 4 years ago. My campaign is 100% self-funded. It's my wife, so every dollar that I spend, my wife and I put into it. And for us, it's a financial decision. For us, it was to go with the company that they specifically produce campaign signs. So they're over half the cost of what you could do locally. I have a relationship with a couple of the print folks here in town, and they understand the decision.
Thank you. Leo? Turn on your mic, please.
My signs are 8 years old. And they were printed outside of Ripon.
Okay, thank you. Told you that wouldn't take long. Okay, so this one starts with Tim, right? Oh, yeah, because this is the sixth question. Will you protect, so this question, I guess, assumes it's bad. Will you protect our city from 5G, and how?
There's been a lot of news and maybe fake news, maybe articles about 5G. I just remember during COVID, there was another crisis of 5G towers being burned down in other countries. And, I don't know the science behind 5G. I don't think we can automatically say we just need to protect people from it. I don't know the science behind 5G. I don't know what it does. I don't know what it even means. I understand it's powerful and it's going to be very fast and it's going to be very helpful for a lot of different things. It might revolutionize some industries actually. So there's a lot of good that could come with a more powerful over-the-air internet and phone service. And if there's any proof that's really dangerous, I guess, yes, we'll try to protect somehow. But it's just really hard to kind of define what that is.
Okay. And again, it is, there are facts going all over the place, so it's hard. Tamra?
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem is the facts, that we're hearing different stories. I'm not an expert in this. I don't even want to answer it. I think if we were in a situation as a council, we would be able to bring in experts and have them talk about it, and then we would have to make that decision. If I was to make it today, I probably wouldn't agree with it, so,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, no, that's good. Daniel?
Yeah, it's something the council has addressed a little bit already. Unfortunately, like most things, the state has pushed for forcing the city's hand and forcing us to have to install 5G. We've taken action to give ourselves the ultimate control, or as much control as we possibly can have locally, to be able to have those conversations, those discussions before it gets implemented. And something that unfortunately there's not a lot of research. The research maybe is spotty, or it wasn't done on the entire population. So it's something that probably needs a lot deeper look at, and we'll just have to see what that looks like.
Okay. Leo?
I would build off of what Daniel said. We've discussed this at the council level a couple of times, and he's right. When they set this whole thing up, they got the federal and state governments to basically say cities have no power, no right, no ability to restrict where they go or what they do unless they want to put it on public property. And so we are I don't think we've finished, but we're in the process of developing policies and procedures to control it when it's on public property. But if they go on private property, we've basically been told you can't do anything about it.
Richard?
Yeah, I think the technology is so new. It's been in Korea and Singapore for a few years. It's relatively new to the United States. We don't know the ramifications yet. We don't know the studies. So I would defer and wait until we know. If I had a choice, I wouldn't do it. I would
Okay.
wait until we know what it will, how it'll affect us.
Okay, good. And I didn't lie, but I fibbed a little. We just got another question in, so. And this one will go now to Tamra. Any more questions after this, or are we good? Okay, this is the last one. Will the stop signs and the stop about at River be able to be removed?
So again, I've been talking to quite a few people over there about that roundabout and the multiple accidents that has happened over there. My belief in what I think should happen is those stop signs need to be removed. I know that there's going to be an expressway through there. I know that we need funding to put in a stoplight as that expressway grows, but I think it's something that needs to be looked at now. And because it's the only roundabout in the city that you have to stop at, and people don't realize it. So, yeah, that's my answer. Thank you.
No, that's good, thank you. Daniel?
Yeah, it's something that, to me, the stop signs don't make any sense. I mean, you come up to a roundabout, you think you can yield, and it just creates more confusion as far as I'm concerned. I happened to, one of the accidents that happened that I think drove putting stop signs back in there, my wife and I came up on the accident before the fire department or anybody actually had showed up on scene, and it was horrific. But I don't think it would have made a hill of beans worth of difference whether there was a stop sign or a yield sign or a blinking light or anything. They weren't ever going to stop at that intersection. So I would prefer to go back to a normal roundabout.
Okay, Leo?
Again, I will build off of what Daniel said. It was a mistake when they did it, when the city put that out there. And then it was compounded when they decided that they were going to make River Road a 6-lane road, and you have a 2-lane roundabout. I'm not sure what the answer is, but it's been looked at. It will continue to be looked at. But at some point, it's going to become a money issue too, to go out there and rebuild it or put in a stop sign or stoplights. It's going to cost, and we've got to figure out how that's going to work.
Richard?
Actually, someone told me it's the only stop about in the state, and it's actually true. It's the only stop about in the state. It needs to come down. It's a hindrance. I mean, Daniel just talked about an accident there, not that that would have impeded it, but I just think that people get confused. I did when I first came to your community. I went through there, and my wife told me over and over, "You just went through a stop sign." I was like, "It's a roundabout." So, speaking personally, it is confusing. It needs to come down.
Yeah, I agree. It's dumb. Why do we have stop signs on a roundabout? I've never seen one. I guess it's the only one in the state. That's great knowledge. They don't need to be there, so we can fix, we got to figure that out.
Well, that's it. Thank you all very much, and thank you everybody that listened tonight. Hopefully they learned something about all the candidates, and good luck to you all, and appreciate you all coming. That's it. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on, don't go away. We had so many questions, sorry, I forgot. So we'll go with the closing statements. We'll start with them.
Hearing everybody's response to all these questions tonight, I'm encouraged by all the answers I heard. It sounds like there's a lot of good ideas, and thank you for all the questions that you sent in. It was pretty impressive to have the community involvement in that way, and it's exciting to have the potential to be a part of the council and even a deeper part of this city. So thank you. One thing that didn't get really addressed tonight that I kind of jotted down was the whole ambulance issue, and that with the fire department. I think it's a big issue for the town, and to make sure we support the fact that we have ambulances as part of that Ripon Consolidated Fire District, and making sure that the ambulances are there and available and funded. And so, there's got to be ways to help do that. And I'm excited about being a part of it. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Tim. Tamra?
To start off with, before I get into my closing, the 4th of July, that was brought up as one of the questions, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew, because it was brought up with tax-paying dollars. In the previous years, we always got enough sponsors to pay for the whole 4th of July event. So the city did not have to pay with tax-paying dollars. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that. And then my closing, we live in a wonderful city. People ask me what I would like to change when they find out that I'm running for council. My response is our city is ran well. I am running to make sure there is a transparency, communication between the council, city, and our community members. We have been through a difficult year of layoffs, business closures, and business hardships. As I mentioned in my opening statement, with my educational background, having a master's in business, completing a doctorate in organizational leadership, I also hold a certification in nonprofit and a California certification in economic development. I support economic development policies and enhance our quality of life, making sure that we are not settling for less than what we deserve when it comes to public safety, economic revitalization, including good jobs, educational opportunities, smart growth, and infrastructure. Again, we have tremendous opportunity to set the course for the future. I ask for your vote for Tamra Spade, my commitment to our community, and my commitment to our future. Thank you.
Well, again, thank you to the Chamber, the GRC, myripon.com for putting this all together tonight. For the members of the public who submitted a ton of great questions to the candidates here tonight, it was great to hear what everybody had to say and be able to share our vision for the future of Ripon. I'll reiterate, my priorities going forward. If reelected to the council, number one is going to be public safety, and again, I think the only one of 5 candidates who's been endorsed by the Ripon Police Officers Association and Police Sergeants Association, so I appreciate that support. Economic development, expanding and moving forward with the economic incentive program that we implemented, I think is going to be huge for the future of Ripon. Continue to develop those businesses and the economic activity that makes our community thrive. Focusing on drinking water and reducing our reliance on groundwater as our primary source of drinking water for the city is something that I'm passionate about and want to continue to work on to improve the quality of life in our community. It's been an honor to be able to serve this community for the last 4 years. I would appreciate the opportunity and really enjoy the opportunity to be able to do it again for another 4 years, so I would appreciate your vote. If you have anything you'd like to know about my candidacy, or any questions, you can always reach out to me through my Facebook, through my email, Degraff@cityofripon.org. Message me, call me, text me, whatever. I'm happy to answer your questions, and again, appreciate your support. Thank you.
Leo.
I too would like to thank the Chamber and myripon.com for the evening. I'd also like to thank all the members of the public that sent questions in. They were outstanding questions, identified some important and complex issues that are facing this community, and it gave all of those who were watching an opportunity to see where each of us stood on those issues and what we would try to do about them. I hope that everybody will consider the information that they've received. If they have any questions, all of us are accessible, and you should ask. Think about what's been said, consider it, and most importantly, sometime between the 5th of October and the 3rd of November, cast your vote. Thank you.
Thanks, Leo. Richard?
Thank you. First of all, thank you to the Chamber, and thank you to the council and the other candidates. It was very enjoyable to hear all the different viewpoints tonight. I'd like to actually throw in, because I know she's watching, thank you to my beautiful wife, because she supported me through this, and I'm very appreciative of that. So in closing, I'd like to just say, I've made Ripon my home, and I'd like to serve the citizens of the community. I understand there's a real commitment to be fully engaged in this community and the council. I've made that commitment. My background and experience as the vice president of a multi-million-dollar manufacturing business has given me insight into finance, budgets, personnel management. I think this would be very beneficial to our city. I understand the realities we're facing daily, especially in these times. Small businesses are struggling. Many individuals have been affected by limited income. Parents and kids are struggling with the challenges of distance learning and single-income parents. Council members need to be keenly aware of every single issues our citizens face. I'm willing to devote my time and energy to take and understand what each individual citizen in this community is going through. Public safety has many parts: police, fire, water, sanitation, streets, and more. I support making it possible for Fire Station 3 to be staffed, working on a solution to the traffic issues we're experiencing, and ensuring our police have every tool and financial need at their disposal. I want to be in contact with the citizens of Ripon and listen, learn, and resolve what's important to all of you. I'm available off my Facebook page, via email, for any questions that the voters may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. So as I was saying, thank you, everybody that listened tonight. Thank all the candidates for coming and spending a lot of time. We spent a little over 2.5 hours, and I think the public did get a good education on how everybody feels and what their priorities are. So thank you very much, everybody. Good luck to you all.